Well, hello everyone. This is Don Smith. I'd like to welcome you to my January 2022 tip of the month. I would also like to wish you all a belated Happy New Year. I know if you're Larry David, if you're Curb Your Enthusiasm fans, you know the Larry David, the official cutoff time for wishing Happy New Year's is January 6th. And as I look at my calendar today, we're January 18th. So uh, my apologies to LD, but we're well over that time. But nonetheless, it's my first video since the new year has started. And I just want to wish you all prosperity and great imagery ahead of you in 2022. And hopefully I can help you out starting with this video. I think such a huge part of what we do nowadays as photographers is processing. Uh, if you follow my videos and you've heard me talk about this, I really believe 50% of what we do begins out in the field in putting the image together, reading light, looking at the elements in the scene, composing, figuring out how you want to lead your viewer's eye through that scene. But the whole time I'm out there doing that, I'm also trying to visualize that finished image as I will see it when I get back to my computer. I'm going to try to overcome some of the inadequacies of the camera, accepting the fact that the dynamic range is nowhere near what my eye can see. Even though the sensors are so good these days, we're still not there to human vision. So what I would like to do today is take you through from raw file through to finished file on how I dealt with this issue of an image I captured last December in Yosemite Valley at a location called Camp 6. That's the Merced River and obviously Half Dome in the background. I believe that's Quarter Dome up to the left. I may be mistaken, but if it isn't, somebody can correct me, and I'm sure they will. So let me just, without further ado, start walking you through the process from Lightroom into Photoshop. And then I'm going to work a lot with the Tony Kuiper TK8 panel. And he just came out with an update last week, 1.1.1. And I'm going to show you how I go about processing this image to hopefully get the full amount of colors and tones that were captured in this image, but just not revealed in a flat raw file. Okay, so I start very basic in Lightroom. I would look at the histogram, which is always essential in the field, and when you get back at your computer, and you can see I underexpose this shot a little in the field, but not dramatically. And if, really to get it balanced up, I would be in there. But then I'm losing my sky, and there's a lot of workarounds around that. Now I've done a video where we can isolate the sky and pull it back in, but I'm going to show you a little different way of thinking about this. There's no one right or wrong way to process an image. It's what works for you, and if you're getting consistent results, that's all that matters. So I'm going to actually start looking at the darkness first, and the first move I'm going to make is just take the shadows up. Now you see, look at the left side of the histogram I'm clipping, and now I should turn these clipping commands on. There we go. So let's bring it back. Now you can see I'm clipping, and now you can see I'm not clipping. But I still think that's a little too dark. So I'm going to come down to the tone curve and come into the parametric settings and just go to my dark slider, because it's restricting my blacks, not allowing me to pull that black point up hardly at all. And I'm just going to brighten that up just, to where my eye thinks it looks right, somewhere in there, where what I'm trying to do is just balance out all the tones in this image right now. We're just working on tonality, and that's always the first thing I work on. Think about the black and whites, the luminosity of your photo, not so much the color. The photo's a little flat now, so I'm going to come back and I'm just going to add a tinge of contrast, not a whole lot. Again, I'm just kind of eyeballing this. Yep, right about in there. That gives me a good starting point. Let's drop down the line here. I'm going to make sure my sharpening's off. I'm going to do that at the end because we've got a soft sky, and I've got a soft water going through there, or silky water. And you can see I didn't use, because we're on the end of the day, I didn't use a neutral density filter. I did drop my ISO to 50 and went to f22, and that ended up giving me 30 seconds. And you can see I shot this with my 16 to 35 Sony G Master on an A1 camera. Love that combination. It's razor sharp. But there are things in here that I want sharpened and other things that I don't want sharpened, and we'll get to that late in the video. Okay, last thing I want to do is I want to come down here to calibration. I always start with my blue primary, and I'm going to ramp that up to 100 points. And you can see as I do that, it gets my blues more to the way my eyes saw them. And it actually starts to bring out a little bit of the reds. I'm going to see if I can bring up the reds a little. And if I go 100 points, it brings it up just a tinge, but you know, good enough. So I am going to now call this good, and we're going to open this up into Photoshop. Okay, so now we have the what I would call the globally adjusted image here in Photoshop. And now I want to start to process localize, and I'm going to do it all through masking. So I'm going to actually break this picture up into 3 sections. I'm going to create a mask that's going to deal with the sky. Then I'm going to create a mask that's going to deal with the Merced River. And then finally, I'm going to create a mask that deals with the actual landscape itself. And I'm going to show you how we build all these through the TK8 panel. And if you're new to the TK8 panel or you've never used it, what I would recommend is just sit back and relax. Don't try to get into all the technicalities of what I'm doing here. And I'll just walk you through it and maybe whet your appetite. I know I've had people write me and say, boy, after watching your video, never thought I was going to use one of these you know, masking programs, and now I'm all into it, and it's all cool. So let me show you how easy it is to start to separate this picture out into its components. And I think it's essential. I've been with Tony Kuiper's masks now since version 2. And the way I like to work is I like to break these into components, the elements into components, and then I can come back like a jigsaw puzzle and work on them individually. So how do we go about doing that? Well, this panel here is really nothing more than all your commands up here. But Tony put them in a convenient panel. And moreover, when you hover the mouse over any of them, it'll give you the definition of what it is. So for example, and I'm not going to do this for every one, but I want to select the sky first. I could go up here to select sky, or I could come right over here, and Tony has given me the same command. So why don't we do that? I'm going to select the sky. And you can see it does a decent, not a great job. It misses up in here where the contrast isn't great. So I got my lasso tool. I'm going to subtract out this little portion of the mask, or excuse me, of the selection. I need to add, so I'm going to hold the Shift key. On the other one, I held the Option or Alt key. And I'm going to do that. No, that's, excuse me, let me back that up. I want to hold the Option key again to go to a minus. And let's just get the top of Half Dome there. There we go. And let's minus out this little section. It jumped up in the sky here. And let's try that again. I'm going to have to come in. Sometimes you got to do these things a few times. Now that's growing it. Let me try this. See, right up in there, it's hard for my eye to even see where this ends. There we go. What I did there is I held the Shift key. I'm going to come back to the Option key because I no longer need this selection down here. There we go. And it's good enough. I'm going to actually right-click into this sky, and I'm going to feather it at about 10 points just so we have some smooth gradations on there. Now, this is really cool. You can see that the selection is made because I've got like a kaleidoscope of color coming around this module, and I got the marching ants coming here, and I've got the marching ants going there. We could make a point that it didn't quite catch the tip of these trees. I don't need to get that finite with it for what I'm going to do here, but I need to save this selection. So this is, I accidentally put the mouse up here and I don't want to confuse you. We're going to come back here. This is going to show you my save selection. What I want to do is come down and look for this little guy right there with the arrow. And if you go up and read, it says saves the active selection as a channel mask. That's what I want to do. When I click on that, it just says my selection. I'm just going to put sky. Oops, we don't need to capitalize. I'm going to put sky, click OK. Now when I come up here to the My Channels button, you will see that the sky is actually in there. If I was to come down here to channels, there it is there. It's built its own mask. So that's where it's going to save it, gang. When you create a selection, you have to save it into the channels, and Tony's giving you a real easy way of doing this. So I'm going to click back over to layers. We still have an active selection, so Command or Control D, or just simply hit this plus minus button, takes the selection away. Now, number 2, I'm going to make a selection. Let's just work our way down. I'll just go ahead and make a selection of the landscape. And I think the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to come up to the Object Selection tool here in Photoshop. I have 2 ways of doing this. I'm going to select the rectangle, and I want to pull all the way across here and release. Okay, and it did not get it all by any means. So let's Command D out of that. Let's try the lasso. And you only have to do a really kind of a loose selection. And if this doesn't work, because I've got that in there, I'm doing a terrible job drawing with a mouse right-handed, and I'm a lefty. Now let's just do that and see what happens. This is how you learn. It actually gave me a little cleaner selection, but still we're going to have to clean this up. So we're in lasso mode. Okay, I'm just holding down the shift key. Here I go again. I'm going to try to do a big selection here. I just need to connect it up to that line. There we go. Now we're getting it. I'm holding the shift key again. There we go. We're getting it. Shift key again. Just connect to the outer line is where I'm trying to do. And we got one more here. As long as I connect it up here to the outer line. And I may have to minus this out. Let's try to see. I'm still holding the shift key to plus it. And now what I can do is hold the Option or Alt key just to select that. It's kind of like using the magnetic lasso. Oh, and as I did that, you know what? There is a little bit of a mountain up there. I can't even see it. So I can't blame the software if I can't even see it with my own eyes. There. Now we got it. Okay, that's fine over there. I am going to right click and feather this to 10. I find that like 10 points is usually pretty good. I'm going to come over here and we're going to save this as, let's just call it landscape. Okay. All right, and now I can deselect, Command or Control D, or just hit the plus minus button. I want to go up into my channels, and you can see now I have the sky and I have the landscape. So we got to get one more selection made here, don't we? We need to get the river. So I'm going to come back over to the Object Selection tool. I think I'll stay with Lasso this time. If one doesn't work, your only 2 choices are lasso or rectangle. And I think this one. I don't have to be perfect because it's like a magnetic lasso, so it's looking for an edge. Okay, so what's thrown it this time is the lighter tones down here. So I'm going to hold the shift, start from the outside line, come over to the outside line, and complete it. And we got that, and I'm going to do the same thing, shift, come down to the outside line, across and up and finish it. I got this little guy that I can minus out of there, so I hold the Alt option. Whoops, no, I want to hold Shift. So let's just connect them. And do it one more time. He's gone, and now we're going to add in this little portion of the river back in here. All this stuff just takes patience. There we go, and now we got it. Now I'm going to come back over here to my little down pointing arrow, and we are going to save this as the river. Okay. And now, if I, just to show you, let's Command or Control D to get out of that. If I click on my channels, you can see I have all three masks made. If I came down to the channel palette, there's all three masks made. I want to be in layers here for what I'm going to do. Now I've broken this up into my three sections where I can start working individually on all of these. So it doesn't really matter what I want to work on first. I think what I'm going to do is attack the sky first, see if I can pull some color out of there. So I'm going to come to my channels, click on sky, and I have two ways of doing it. I can output it to a hue saturation layer, or I can output it to a color grade. I'm going to try the color grade first and see if that works. If you're not used to color grading, I do have a video on this, and you need to have it attached to a curves adjustment layer. And if there's one that doesn't come up, you just simply click there, and Tony's got it set up to where it will attach it to a curves adjustment layer. Then you have the choice of shadows, midtones, and highlights. I always start with the midtones, and then you can change color, or you can change luminosity. I'm going to see, first of all, if I brighten that sky up. I don't think that's what I want. I may darken it down a little. Let's just reset it. I'm going to move the color into a little bit more warmth. Okay, that's pretty good. And let me see if I darken that down a little. Now it's getting it to pop a little. And I'm going to click out of this. And I think my next one, I could do another color grade to get the blues. I want to try to get the blues so we have some color contrast there. But I'm going to show you another way that we can do this with the hue saturation. So I am going to add the sky. This time I'm going to come to hue saturation, and I am going to just select blues, and we're going to saturate up those blues a little bit. Okay, not too much, maybe right in there. And now let's turn both of these off. That's what we started with. And now we've got a good color palette, a little bit more representative of what my eyes saw that night out there. Now, you can see there is some color down here in the river, and let's go after that next, because I think that would be the most obvious. So because I've already created a mask, all I have to do is click river. This one I am going to output to a color grading, because I like that luminosity. When I'm looking at reflections, and you can bear this out in nature, go look at a water puddle somewhere. What's being reflected to me in a luminosity world, that's your brights and darks, is usually about 1.5 stops darker than the eye. Okay, so this may be closer to 2 stops darker to the eye. So I'm going to pull on this just to lighten this river up a little bit. Oops, hold on, what do we got going on here? Oh, okay, I'm glad I made that mistake. I thought I had selected a midtone. There was nothing for this tool to work on because I hadn't selected any of these, shadow, midtone, or highlights. Now when I pull on this, you can see, let me do it dramatically, you can see that it's just working on the river down there. So what I'm trying to do is just get it to a point where it looks about 1.5 stops darker than the sky, okay? And now let's see, I'm not sure if the color grade, no, if I move it in one direction, it's going to want to just apply that warmth to, so I'm going to take that away. It's going to want to apply that warmth globally. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to X out of here. We're going to come back to river, and this time I'm going to output it to a hue saturation level where I can get a little differentiation going between the blues and the warms. So let's just first hit this overall saturation, bring that up, the master. And now I think I'll take my targeted adjustment tool, that little hand. I'm going to drop it in over the reds, and it sees that as blues, but that's okay because we can alter those. Let me see if there is any reds to alter. There may just not be any reds to alter in here. And the way to do it is just select reds individually and crank it up. And I'm not seeing, yeah, just a smidgen. I mean, we're talking a smidgen. And I'll go to magentas. Yeah. Okay, so I kind of like it as that. Let's turn both of these on and off, okay, and turn them back on. And now let's turn the whole part of it off and the whole part of it back on. And I'm liking it. All right, so now number 3, we got to deal with the landscape itself. 2 things. I think it looks a little dark, a little flat, and we can do this, I think, all in one move here. So let's come back to my channels. Let's select the landscape selection we did. And I'm going to this time come to, I'm going to output it to a curves mask. I'm going to use my targeted adjustment, and I'm just going to click into kind of a midtone, which would probably be this tree right in here, and I'm going to raise up. And as I raise up, that starts to brighten that scene up. And now you can see up here in the trees, we're getting a little bit of where it didn't select it all that great. So I have to be very careful with this. I really could go in with this button here, which would open up the selected mask, and I could refine those edges in there, which I would probably do. I just didn't see that, and I don't have time in this video to really go after that. So I think I was gonna bring the contrast up a little, but I don't even think I have to. I think more kind of right in there, and that takes the haloing effect off of that too. Yeah, kind of right in there. Let's turn that off and turn it on. And now let's turn everything off and on. That's how we came out of Lightroom. That's not even the raw file. And now by working with individual masks, I was able to bring this picture more to life. And I think what I want to do is I want to come back in here on this hue saturation and just take the blues down. I think I kind of ramped those blues up a little too much. Maybe about right in there. Okay. Another thing I like to do at this point is I like to add what's called a stamp layer. And it's a 4-key click. It's Shift, Command, E, and then either Option or Alt, or you can just click that one button. Now I can go back out to Adobe Camera Raw, and I'll show you the reason I do this. I love this channel mixer that we don't get in Photoshop. So now it has a targeted adjustment tool, and in the newer versions of Lightroom, you can see, like, if I want to try to intensify that color up there or alter it. Whoops, I don't want to alter, you know what happened? I'm in hue here. I want to come over here and click saturation. And now just saturate down that and see if it finds any of the red down in here to saturate. Yep, right there. And then I want to drop it over this white and desaturate that a little. That's what was bugging me, where the blue was coming in a little too much. And just in case there's any blue in the snow, make that a little lighter. And now I click OK. I love the ability to be able to come in and out of Adobe Camera Raw. It's very, very simple to do. Okay, last thing we have to do, gang, is we have to sharpen this image. So I'm going to add another stamp layer. And now I'm going to come up to my filter, and I am going to come into Topaz and Topaz Sharpen AI. And I am on an iMac Pro that I purchased back in late 2017. I am hoping that's the next computer Apple comes out with. This is Topaz Sharpen AI. I'm going to apply this, but It's going to apply it all across my sky, and it's going to apply it across my river, which I really don't want any sharpening to. It does have artificial intelligence where it kind of stays away from that, but nonetheless, I'm going to show you how we're going to finalize this with masks when we come back out into Photoshop. And really, really cool way of doing it. And then we'll wrap this video up. You can see on the countdown, this is going to take 3 minutes to sharpen. So I will join you back after this is sharpened. Okay, so now we're back out with Topaz having sharpened the entire image. But I want to show you something here. Even as good as the AI is, you can see down in here, it tried to make sense of this smooth water and tried to sharpen it up, and it actually made a mess. It did a little better job in the sky. You can see here there was a little bit of an artifacting going on. So how do we correct that? Well, we already have a mask that was made for the landscape itself. So what I need to do is I need to apply that mask to this to this layer that was sharpened. And the way we do that is we just click right here and on this little icon that says output, apply this button to the on-screen mask as a layer mask, and it'll attach itself to the sharpening. This is the sharpen. So now when we blow this up, you can see the mask protected the river. Everything went back to the way it was looking. And same up here in the sky. I'm not seeing any artifacting going on. And that's how we can apply it and tell it to apply via mask just to that sharpening. I want to look at one more here because I was a little concerned with the snow. And no, it seems to have kept the smoothness. It didn't over sharpen. When I was kind of rehearsing this for you guys, it tended to want to sharpen that snow a little too much, and I could have gone in and brushed that out and taken care of that also. So there you go. That's how I took that image. And let me just show you again now. We'll turn all of this off. Whoops, hold down the alter option and click on the background layer. That's how it came out of Lightroom, and that's how we brought it to life with the power of masks. You can see why I'm so excited about the masking, and it's just such a way that you can refine your selections and really go in and just target what it is you want to work on. Okay, so that's it for this time. Hey, by the way, if you have any ideas on videos you would like me to make, let me know. I am going to be leaving for about 3 weeks, and I'm going to be going out of the country. Gary Hart and I have a workshop lined up over in Iceland that, oh, hallelujah, I finally get to fly to another country and run a workshop. That all these workshops have been put on hold endlessly for two years now, and we're finally getting able to run some of our workshops. So slowly things are getting back, and as soon as this Omicron passes, I just pray that there isn't another variant coming out, but we need to get back living our lives. So anyway, till next time, I'm going to try to do 2 of these videos a month, and let's see if I can hold true to it, but with the travel, it's going to be a little rough. We will talk to you later. Shoot me an email or let me know down in the comments if there's anything you'd like me to work on and teach you guys how to do. So until next time, it's Don Smith. You take care.